Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to talk about language and the brain, right? Language and the brain. So far we discussed certain branches of linguistics such as morphology, phonetics, phonology, morphology, semantics, pragmatics, right? Those topics primarily they deal with language only, with language, how language works, how is language, constituted, like what are the various components of language, what are the various phonological components that are speech sounds, right? What are the morphological components like morphemes, right? Marks, allomorphs. What are the various semantic components, semantic rules, semantic relations between words, right? Then pragmatics, how is language used in real life context, right? But here in this chapter, as well as in the coming chapter, which is sociolinguistics, we'll be talking about language in relation to something outside the domain of language. Like if we talk about brain, so brain is not part of language, right? If we talk about speech sounds, so speech sounds are part of language. If we talk about morphemes or we talk about context, we talk about meaning, so they are part of language, right? But if we look at brain, or in the coming branch of linguistics, the forthcoming one, which is sociolinguistics, right? So that is language in relation to society, right? So we're now trying to come out of the domain of language itself, and we're going to relate language to other branches of studies, you may say other fields of study. Like here we are relating language to neurology, then we'll relate language to society, we will relate language to psychology, right? So applied linguistics, this is what we call applied linguistics, right? Now language and the brain, do you know what is meant by neurology? Neurology, do you have any idea? Neurophysician, neurosurgeon?
Yes, sir, related to brain.
Exactly. The study of the structure and function of brain. Neurology, neurology, right? Sorry, I forgot to write you here. Okay. Neurology, right? Neurology means the study of the structure and functions of brain, right? Human brain, simply it's the study of human brain. What is linguistics? It's neurology is the study of what? The study of brain, right? Then what is linguistics? Linguistics is the study of what? Come on. It's the study of
Language.
Yes, it's the scientific study of language, right? Now when we create a blend of these two, right, we have got narrow is from neurology, right, which is the study of brain, and linguistics is the study of language. So when we create a blend of two, what are we left with, or what is the result of this study, or the scope of this study? Is, you see, brain plus language, right? So what do we mean by narrow linguistics? Narrow linguistics is the branch of linguistics which deals with the scientific study of language in relation to brain, right? The study of language in relation to brain, that is what we call neurolinguistics, right? It is, let me repeat, it is a branch of linguistics, just as phonetics, phonology, morphology, semantics, syntax, pragmatics. In the same way, neurolinguistics is also the branch of linguistics. Okay, but what does it deal with? It deals with the scientific study of language in relation to brain, in relation to brain, right? This is what we call neurolinguistics. They have also given the definition. The study of the relationship between language and the brain is called neurolinguistics, right? Neurolinguistics. How have people come to know about the relationship between language and brain? People have conducted certain experiments, neurological experiments, neurobiological experiments, right? And like in the medical field, particularly in the medical field, right? They actually came to this conclusion that there is a relationship between language and brain because the language faculty exists in our brain, right? Obviously, language is a kind of mental activity using language like producing speech, production of speech, comprehension of speech. Okay, all these are the various activities which are performed by brain, right? That is why then a separate branch of a separate field of study came into being, and it was termed as neurolinguistics, right? Now, first of all, if we look at human head, right? Let me better show you the pictures. Yeah, let's see if I could find a clear picture of the two hemispheres, right? We have got the right hemisphere and then the left hemisphere, and then the language faculty exists in the left one, right? Okay, these are the two hemispheres. If you look at human brain, right? Can you see these pictures? Can you see this picture? Is it visible to
Yes,
all?
sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Clearly.
See,
Yes,
the,
sir.
the, the brain can be, it can be, divided into two parts, the right one and the left one. Okay. This is what we call brain lateralization. Okay. Now, if we look, this left side is called left hemisphere, while this right side is called left hemisphere. So the brain is basically divided into two hemispheres, right? Now, people believe this is a kind of general discussion about brain, right? And the functions of brain. People believe that the right side of the brain is, it is responsible for creative activities, right? Like our feelings, imaginations, art, creation. Left side is responsible. It is the logical form, or you may say the logical part of human brain. Like all the analytical activities, for example, mathematics and these things, so sort of activities, they take place in the left hemisphere of human brain, right? Now, people who are very creative, remember their active, the right side or the right hemisphere of their brain is more active, and people who are more analytic, who are expert in mathematics, and who are this what to call it, like they can easily break down things into smaller components. They're expert in computer sciences, mathematics, computer language, right? Even phonetics, phonology, this the phonetic transcription, things like that. People who are expert in these things actually they're analytical minded. They're analytical minded, right? And these analytical tasks are primarily performed by the left hemisphere of human brain. And those people who are very creative, they the right side of their brain is very much active, right? Now remember one thing, this right side of the human brain controls the left side of our body, like our left hand, right, left leg, you know, starting from the very forehead till the very, you know, last fingers of our feet. Till that point, the left side of the body is controlled by the right hemisphere, while the right side of the body is controlled by the left hemisphere, right? It may be a bit confusing for you. Let me repeat it. The right side of human body is controlled by the left hemisphere, while the left side of the body is controlled by the right hemisphere, right? Now if you have seen people who are left-handed, left hand writers, you know about left-handed writers, those people who write with their left hands, they are most of the times very creative. Why? Because they all the time they make use of their left hand while writing, right? It means that the right side of their brain is more functional, more active, because when they're using their right hand, so as I told you that the sorry when they're using their left hand, so as I told you that the left side of the body, like the left arm, the left hand, the left leg, the left foot, right, the left shoulder, all these left-sided parts are controlled by the right hemisphere, right? So in the right hemisphere, it primarily controls the creative activities, right, cognitive activities, mental activities. Now when these people are used to using their left hand while writing, right, and doing all the tasks, like using a hammer, using smartphones, these people are used to using their left hand for you know, all the kind of activities. So they're more creative. On the other hand, people who use their right hand for writing, and who are right-handed, simply you may say, and all the activities who are right-handed, they're mostly analytical. Why? Because when they use their right hand mostly, their hands are used, or hands receive directions from brain. Remember, all the parts of our body receive directions and orders, commands from brain, right? So when those who are right-handed, their their left side of their brain, the left side of their brain is more active, and that is why they are most of the time they're analytical minded, right? Not that much creative. So the basic point which I wanted to tell you is that there are two hemispheres of the human brain, right? The right side controls the creative activity, while the left side controls the analytical activities, right? Number two, the right side of the body is controlled by the left hemisphere, while the left side of the body is controlled by the right hemisphere. Okay, now coming to language faculty, what do I mean by language faculty? See, if you look at our department, we see this is the administration block, right? This is the English department, this is the management department, this is education department, this is the computer lab, this is the staff room, this is the canteen. In the same way, if you look at our brain, so in our brain there are multiple, you know, you may say faculties, like we say faculty of English, faculty of management sciences. In the same way, we have got faculty for faculty for using language, faculty for creative activities, faculty for analytic activities, faculty for imaginations, right? Multiple like things are there, but this categorization is not that much clear cut. हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि ब्रेन का ये हिस्सा जो है तो बस इस हिस्से में ये स्पोर्ट्स वगैरह के थॉट्स होते हैं, इसमें खुराक के थॉट्स होते हैं. नहीं, we cannot make such, you know, clear cut decision, right? But based on assumptions and experiments which people have conducted, they have reached the conclusion that the human brain is language faculty is located in the left hemisphere, in this left hemisphere. right? Now, how have they reached this conclusion? With the help of certain neurological experiments they've conducted in biological labs, right, in hospitals. There was a person whose name was Mr. Gage. I think his full name was Paul Gage, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, he was his name was Paul Gage, right? Phineas Paul Gage. He was actually a construction foreman, right? And what happened back in September 1848, right? When he was working in some rock, like ये बम blasting वगैरह जो होता है और इस rocks वगैरह को कूदा जाता है, right? So what happened while blasting a hole in a rock, some gunpowder accidentally exploded, right? And a long rod of metal, right? There was a long rod, a long of a long rod of metal made of metal iron, and it was about 50 yards. It was actually 50 yards away. It went into the forehead of Mr. Gage, right? Into the forehead of Mr. Gage. What happened when he got recovered after the injury? It was found that there was no damage to his speech, no damage to his language. He could speak language the way he could do before that accident, right? So what people concluded from this experiment, they concluded, since if you see that metal rod, it went into his forehead, right? It means like his forehead, the front part of the brain was actually the right front part of the brain was affected, it was injured, but there was no effect on the language faculty. It means the people concluded from this experiment that the language faculty does not exist in the right hemisphere and it does not exist in the front part either, राइट। देखिए ये उनका ब्रेन था, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मिस्टर गेज का ब्रेन था ये। तो व्हाट हैपेंड, मिस्टर गेज वाज अ कंस्ट्रक्शन फोरमैन, ही वाज working in the rocks, right, bomb blasting. So some gunpowder accidentally exploded, and a long a rod made of iron, it went inside this right front part of his brain, in the forehead you may say, right? So this front part of the right hemisphere, it got damaged. But when he got recovered, Mr. Gage, when Mr. Gage got recovered, it was found that he could speak language the way he could do before that incident, right? So it means, like for example, if this part of his brain had got damaged, what would happen? He might have not been able to use language the way he could do before that accident, right? But since this right part and this front part of the brain was damaged, that is why he could use the language the way he could do before that accident. So it means from this accident, doctors of that time concluded that the language faculty does not exist in this right front part of human brain. You got it so far? G, did you get it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, sure.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
सिंपल सी बात है। मिस्टर गेज जो था वो कंस्ट्रक्शन फोरमैन था। वो जब रॉक में काम कर रहा था तो कुछ गन पाउडर एक्सप्लोड हो गई, धमाका हो गया, और एक मेटल का रॉड था, राइट? जो I don't know what do we call it in Pashto. I do have the name in my mind, but it's on the tip of my tongue, right? Like a long kind of rod, right? So अब ये उसके फोरहेड में चला गया, उसके ब्रेन का राइट फ्रंट साइड जो है वो जख्मी हो गया। लेकिन जब वो रिकवर हुआ तो उसके लैंग्वेज पर कुछ असर नहीं था उस डैमेज का। तो डॉक्टर्स ने ये कंक्लूजन ड्रॉ किया कि ये लैंग्वेज फैकल्टी ब्रेन के राइट हेमिस्फीयर के फ्रंट साइड में एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती, राइट? Then some other experiments were conducted, and like CT scan, some other activities. There is a detailed discussion in this topic given by Jen Etchison in his book The Articulate Mammals, right? He discussed these things in detail, right? He mentioned so many experiments which people have conducted, doctors have conducted, doctors of neurology, neurosurgeons have conducted, right, while treating, while doing the treatment of such patients, right? And they have come to know that the language faculty exists in the left hemisphere. This is the left hemisphere, remember, right? Now, language area in the brain. Language area in the brain means that where does the language faculty exactly exist in the mind? Where is the language faculty located in the mind? Right? Where is the language faculty? I'm sorry for the typos. Where is the language faculty located in the sorry, not in the mind, in the brain? I hope you know the difference between brain and mind, right? Brain is the tangible aspect of mind, while mind is the logical aspect. Like we can touch the brain and we can see the brain, but we cannot see or touch the mind. Like you're already studying IT in this semester, I think. So it's that kind of relationship, like you see how many devices, software and hardware. So brain is the hardware while mind is the software, right? Okay, here is the language faculty. Where did it go? Yeah, you see this is the brain, right? So we have got these four parts: 3, 4, 1 and 2, right? One is the Broca's area, then we have got the Wernicke's area, then the acute fasciculus, and the last one is the motor cortex. So let's talk about parts of brain, right? Our topic is area, language areas in the brain, or you may say parts of brain responsible for linguistic function. Parts of brain responsible for linguistic function. Linguistic function means production of language or comprehension of language and things like that, right? So the very first part of brain is the Broca's area, which is, as you can see, it's right here. I hope you can see in the picture, right? Or let me show you it more clearly. Broca's area. You see this blue point here, or this red one in this picture?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. If you can see this red point in the brain, this is actually the Broca's area, right? I'll try to share these pictures with you after the class in your group so that you may have better understanding. So this area is actually called the Broca's area. Now, what is Broca's area and what is its function? By whom was it discovered? Right? It was discovered by a French surgeon whose name was Paul Broca. He was a French surgeon, a neurosurgeon, right? It was discovered by him. And if you remember when we were talking about word formation processes, here is an example for that, right? Word formation. See, coinage. Okay. You see this eponym? मैंने आपको बताया था ना कि लोगों के नेम्स होते हैं, उन नेम के पीछे किसी चीज का नाम रख दिया जाता है, right? If you remember, the same is the case with this Broca's area, because it was discovered by Paul Broca. The name of that person was Paul Broca, and when he discovered this part of the brain, this part of the brain was then termed as, it was named as Broca's area, right? So it's like the name of a thing, and which is due to the name of the person who had discovered that thing, that part of the brain. So yeah, coming to our point again, this Broca's area was discovered by Paul Broca somewhere in 1960s, right? He was actually diagnosing a patient, right, who had got some damage in this part of the brain, right? Paul Broca was he was diagnosing, he was treating a patient, and that patient had got a damage in this part of the brain, and Broca realized that that person had got some problem in the production of language, right? Let me write it here. In the production of language, we produce language, we comprehend language, right? The production of language, right? So Paul Broca was he was diagnosing the brain of a patient, and he came to know that there was a damage in this part of the brain of that patient, and uh, he discovered one more thing. It was that the patient could not speak properly, like there was some disorder in the production of his speech, there was some problem in the production of the speech of that patient, right? So Paul Broca reached the conclusion that this Broca's area is responsible for the production of speech, right? So how can we define it? We may say that the part Broca's area is the part of brain which is responsible for the production of language, right? Broca's area is the part of human brain which is responsible for the production of language, right? Broca's area. One more thing you need to keep in mind, it is also known as the inferior speech cortex, right? On the other hand, the Wernicke's area is called the posterior speech cortex, right? So you may simply say that Broca's area was discovered by Paul Broca, who was a French surgeon, and this area is responsible for this area of the brain, or this part of the brain is responsible for the production of language, right? And it is also known as the interior speech posterior. Coming to Wernicke's area, which was discovered by Karl Wernicke, who was a German doctor, right? And it was discovered somewhere in the 1870s. Okay, he was diagnosing the brain of a patient who had got some damage into this part of the brain, right? Into which part of the brain? This part. Let me show you with the help of a clear picture. Yeah, I hope this picture will give us a better idea, the one with both the areas of the brain present. Yeah, this one. Can you see it? What happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. I hope it's visible to all. It must be visible now, right? Where did
Yes,
it
sir.
go? Okay. So if you look at this part of the brain, this picture, it has got two parts, you know, Broca's area and Wernicke's area. So this one is the Broca's area, which we already talked about. Now this part of the brain is called the Wernicke's area. Okay, it was discovered by this Karl Wernicke, who was a German surgeon. So when he was diagnosing a patient who had got some damage into this part of the brain, right? The one, this part of the brain, this one, right? The one with this blue arrow. So he came to know that there was some damage to this part of the brain, and the patient could not see, could not comprehend the language properly, right? So the patient had got certain speech disability regarding the comprehension of language, right? Or perception of language, you may say. Comprehension of language, or you may say perception of language, right? If you remember phonetics, I had told you the study of the production, transmission, and perception of speech sounds, right? So we produce language and we perceive language, we comprehend it, right? We understand it. So this part of the brain, yeah, that patient whom Karl Wernicke was diagnosing, right? That patient had got some disability in the understanding of speech, in the perception of speech, in the comprehension of speech, right? So Paul Wernicke reached the conclusion that this part of the brain, which is known as Wernicke's area, it is responsible for the comprehension of language, for the understanding of language, for the perception of language, right? And remember, both these parts, both these areas of the brain are both are located in the left hemisphere. This is the left hemisphere only, the left one, right? The right side is on that side, then on the right side, right? It is the left side only. Like this is the back part of human body. This is the front part. You see here we may have the eyes here, eyes maybe here. If you can see this small hand, I'm moving, right? तो इस तरह ये this is the left hemisphere then. Why it's not clear? Why सबको clear नहीं है या सिर्फ एक बंदे को?
No, sir, it's clear.